Okay, welcome to Hygiene and Sanitation, the last chapter, chapter 7. Okay, for chapter 7, we're going to talk about food spoilage and preservations. Alright, so we're going to start by talking about food deterioration and microbial spoilage. Okay, we have mentioned that this topic earlier of the chapter, but this will be go slightly deeper a bit. Alright. Okay, let's look back to the definitions. What's food spoilage? Food spoilage refers to the food that is no longer attractive or suitable for eat because the physical and chemical properties have changed. It may also be called decomposition, rotting, perishing, deteriorations, and decaying. Okay, so all these are very similar terminology. Yeah, food spoilage, decomposition, rotting, perishing, deteriorations, and decaying. All these are similar terminology. So these changes on end may or may not also indicate the presence of food poisoning organisms. Why is this saying so, right? Is because food poisoning organisms sometimes does not cause food spoilage. Okay, what this means, right, is that you will look at the food and then look at it, it just look like the food that is not spoiled. Oh, okay, but it's actually contaminated with the food poisoning organisms. Okay, if you eat it, you're going to get food poisoning. Okay, there's no smell, no bad smell, the appearance looks okay, and so forth. Yeah, this could be due to the production of toxin. Okay, the production of toxin in the food. So if you eat it, then you will get food poisoning. So you have to be careful. Yeah, food spoilage and sometimes may not indicate food poisoning organisms. We call pathogens. Pathogens basically they carry diseases. They are defined as infectious organisms including bacteria, protists, fungi, viruses that cause diseases. Okay, this picture shows very clearly those food spoilage. Okay, so you can see here, this is very obvious. The strawberries that is gone moldy. Okay, so this is very typical spoilage of food that you can find in the fridge, okay, refrigerator. And this one is the peanuts. Peanuts are very frequently they actually contaminated with alpha toxin, yeah, because of the microorganisms that grow on it. Okay, so this alpha toxin is actually toxins that is present in the peanuts. The peanuts looks just like any other peanuts. Okay, so there's still a very strong peanut smell. Okay, the texture is still crunchy. Okay, if it's roasted and so forth. But if you eat the peanut that is contaminated with alpha toxin, you're going to get food poisoning, yeah? Okay, so food spoilage through decomposition, rotting, perishing, deterioration, and decaying is a complex process usually involving single or combination of the followings. Okay, so the food spoilage can be caused by all these, yeah? Okay, it can be due to the growth and activity of microorganism. Okay, because of the microorganism, it can, for example, bacteria, it can break down the specific component of food. Then sometimes it can be due to enzyme activity. All these enzymes can be either the action of the plant or the animal itself. Okay, not necessarily from a foreign object. It can be the plant itself or the animal itself. Okay, that starts to break down of the specific food components after death of the plant and animals. So you can see from sometimes the vegetables, okay, the decay sometimes is not because of the microorganism. It can be due to the enzymes in the cells that because it's already out of balance, okay, that it cannot be controlled, so it actually start to attack its own tissue. Okay. Sometimes it could be due to chemical reactions, okay, due to the interaction between component of food with the environment, for example, oxidations. Sometimes it could be due to the attack by vermin, okay, for example, like ants, cockroaches, like birds, that it can destroy the food, as well as they can lead to transmission of pathogen, because where they touches the mouth, the hand, and so forth, like the cockroaches, they could have crawled on the environments, okay, the floor or sewage system that is full of pathogens. So when they go to your food and start to chew on your food or crawl across your food, then the pathogen will go to the food. Sometimes it could be due to physical changes, okay, which include changes caused by freezing, burning, drying, and pressures. Okay, so all these can be a cause of food spoilage. Okay, just to add on here, sometimes the physical changes can lead to the injury, and because of that injury, the enzymes start to leak out from the cells and start to attack its own tissue. Yeah. Storing food before food spoilage. Based on the rate of spoilage, food ingredient can be categorized as high perishable, semi-perishable, or stable and non-perishable. Yeah. Usually those that is highly perishables, okay, or semi-perishables, they are which is prone to food spoilage. They usually will undergo food preservations, yeah, which is the next topic I'm going to talk about later on. Okay, so high perishables, for example, like fresh meats, fish, poultry, eggs, milk, fruits and vegetables, all these are highly perishable, so very easy to get spoiled. Okay, then semi-perishables, like some of the fruits and nuts, okay, those that is very stable, sugar, flour, or dry, anything dry, okay, they are very, very stable, yeah. So you can see from here, okay, you can see from here all the high perishable one you can only keep 2 or 3 days. Okay, so for example, seafood, 3 days if you put so in the fridge. Meat, okay, 3 to 5 days. Okay, if you put so in the fridge. Of course, if you store in the freezer, it actually can last longer a bit. Okay, high perishable. All these are semi-perishables like fruit juice, milk can store slightly longer a bit. Okay. Alright, so you can see from where oil and fats, margarines, okay, sometimes all this oil and fats and margarine, right, it can go up to 6 months here, really depending on what kind of oil and fats. Usually the processed oil and fats that you use in the kitchen, right, it can easily go half a year, no problem, yeah. They are quite stable because they already added some ingredient to stabilize against oxidation and so forth. So you have to be extra careful, yeah. Food spoilage sometimes does not show evidence or visible sign of spoilage. Food might look normal, and only after eaten, okay, then only you realize that it has been defected, and sometimes sometimes you get food poisoning, only you realize, okay, food poison, only you realize that, oh, it's already spoiled, the food. Okay, hence it's best practice to throw out foods or ingredients that are past its use by date or recommended storage time here. So it's very important here, if you look at the date, expiry date, okay, or sometimes you found a can or in the fridge and you didn't know that when was it that you last used, or how long has been in the fridge, or sometimes it can be a unlabeled package, okay, without any use by date, just throw away. Don't risk, okay, just throw away without risking the consumer, yeah. Okay, the next is food preservation principles. It's very important to know that sometimes food, okay, can be undergo food preservations, okay. So what is food preservation? Let's talk about that. Food preservation, the meaning of word preserve is to keep safe, retain quality, and prevent decomposition or fermentations. Okay, food preservation can be defined as a process by which certain food, like fruits and vegetables, are prevented from getting spoiled for a long period of time. The color, taste, and nutritive value of the food is also preserved here. But usually the color and the taste after preserve usually slightly change already, okay. Nutritive also slightly change, okay. But of course, the technology will try to preserve as long as possible. Okay, sometimes, right, why, you may ask yourself, why do you need to preserve the food? Okay, why not just fresh, just eat? Okay, sometimes it's sometimes you have to think about it. sometimes the produce has been produced too much. Okay, like some fruits or some vegetables, right? When they produce too much, okay, and you know that all these high perishable or semi-perishable food items, they cannot last long. So in that case, right, instead of throwing away, it's best to preserve it. Okay, that's why preserve excess produce. Sometimes, right, you can also, because of that, you can add variety to our meal. Sometimes some of the food ingredients you cannot actually how to say, it doesn't grow at a certain season. Yes, in Malaysia that's okay, but sometimes in the overseas, okay, other countries where they got 4 seasons, during winter time there's nothing can be grown. Okay, so they preserve it so they can have it during the winter time. They preserve certain fruits that only can grow during the spring. Okay, then during that time they can preserve it, and then they can actually eat it during the winter. You also can reach area where the food item cannot be grown. Availability of some preserved food can add to the variety and nutritive value of meals. Okay, like for example, durian. Nowadays, durian is very famous, very popular in a lot of countries. So you can actually preserve it, and then you can send to certain parts, that is northern part of China and so forth, and then you can actually add the varieties of their food items here. Sometimes preserved food can also make transportation and storage food much more easier. Preservation of food usually reduce the bulk, okay, much more smaller. Like for example, if you're looking at bananas are perishable food, okay, semi-perishable food. What happens is that you can make into like banana chips, okay, or can preserve it into banana chip and so forth. Then it actually becomes smaller packet. It can reduce the bulk, making their storage easy, and sometimes they prolong their shelf life here. The shelf life can be up to 6 months, sometimes 1 year also can, no problem. Yeah. Another one, like for example, kimchi can last very long. Okay. So these are the principles of food preservations: removal of microorganisms, or at least inactivating them. Okay, this can be done by removing water, lowering or increased temperature. Okay, lowering is like for example freezing or refrigeration. Increase, like for example, like heating up to above 75 degrees Celsius. Okay, like canning put into the can. Okay, that is above 100 degrees Celsius. Yeah. Increasing the concentration of salt and sugar, later I will talk about it, or acid in the food. For the preservation of green leafy vegetables, the water should be removed from the leaf so that the microorganisms cannot survive. This can be done by drying the ground vegetables till all the moisture evaporates here. Okay, the vegetables you can actually dry it or in the salt. Yeah, okay, some of the preserved vegetables, okay, is being done like that. All these techniques are able to inactivate the microorganism or prevent them from growing. Sometimes you also can use it to inactivate enzymes. The enzyme, as I mentioned, sometimes the enzyme can be present or is originated from the animal or the plant source here. Okay, not necessarily the enzyme of the microorganisms. Enzymes found in food can be inactivated by changing their conditions such as temperature, slightly heat, okay, like blanching it can destroy the enzymes. One of the methods of preserving of pea is to put them for a few minutes in the boiling water, which is blanching, okay, as I mentioned, blanching. This method inactivates enzyme and thus in preserving the food. Okay, another reasons, okay, for principles of food preservation is to remove the insects, worms or rats, okay, by storing the food in the dry, airtight containers. Okay, the insects are prevented from destroying it. Okay. Okay, next one, functional property of selected key food components and their role in food preservations. Yeah, these are some of the ingredients I've mentioned before in the previous slide. Okay. So if you want to go for preservations, you need to use preservatives here. So preservatives can be categorized into two types, okay, natural preservative and chemical preservatives. Nowadays, consumers are more towards the natural preservative rather than the chemical one, because they believe that the chemical can harm their body. Yeah, so it can be true and can be untrue in certain cases. It really depending on what kind of preservative they are talking about. Okay. So natural preservatives, like for example salt, sugars, lemon juice, vinegar, oil, spices are natural preservatives. I'm going to go through these in the following slides. Okay, those that is chemical like potassium metal bisulfite, citric acids, sodium benzoate are chemical preservatives. A lot of all these preservatives, there is a limit to the usage, which means that they cannot use more than certain concentrations. If you use within the concentration, actually they have shown that it's not really harmful to the body. Yeah. Okay, salt. Salt is one of the very frequent use preservative here. Okay. When you make pickles at homes, okay, pickles is like all the preserved fruits and vegetables. Salt is one of the ingredients used. Salt can also add to the taste. Okay, that's why a lot of people, right, in the kitchen, chef will say, oh, no taste, you just need to add salt to it. Okay, salt has a special functions to act as a preservative. If the position of salt in the pickle is less, okay, it can get spoiled after some times. The concentration of the salt in the preserved food is very important. Yeah, that's why you need to have a certain concentrations in the food if you want to preserve it for a longer time. How does it work is because salt in the food, if the concentration is high enough, it actually can draw the water out from the food. When you draw the water out from the food ingredients, okay, the bacteria cannot grow in there. As you remember, the bacteria required certain water activity, in order to grow. So you can see salted fish, all these are the way in preserving food. Sugar is another type. Again, it requires to be high concentration of sugar. Too low, it cannot preserve. It need to be high concentration. Okay, that's why like some of the jam and jelly, not only for taste but also can use as a preservatives. Okay, the proportion of the sugar has to be correct to protect them from spoiling. The sugars can actually remove the water from the ingredients, so making it unavailable for the microorganism to grow. This is very similar to the salt. Okay. Acid is another one. Lemon juice, vinegar, citric acid, okay, not only add sourness to our food, it also can help to prevent microorganisms from growing, because acidic pH, okay, acid can reduce the pH. At acidic pH, microorganism doesn't like to grow. Of course, not all the microorganism doesn't like acidic pH. Some still can grow, okay, but majority of the microorganism, okay, a lot of the pathogens, they cannot grow at acidic pH, okay, or maybe can make it reduce the activity of growing, okay. Another one is the oil and spices. A lot of spices like mustard powder, they has antimicrobial activity. A lot of spices actually have antimicrobial activity. It actually can prevent the growth of microorganisms, thus preventing spoilage. Another one is basically oil. Okay, oil can also preserve food because, as I mentioned, the microorganism, they need to have certain water to grow, but not in oil. Okay, so oil can actually prevent the microorganism from growing by separating the microorganism from the water. Okay, sometimes also can separate from air as well. That's why they cannot grow. Okay, but you have to be careful. Yeah, those anaerobic microorganisms, they can actually grow in the absence of air. In that case, the food spoilage is possible to happen. Okay, so you have to be extra careful. sometimes you can combine a few techniques to preserve the food items, okay? Not only using oil, you can using spice and oil, for example, yeah? Okay, so the last section is basically on talk about the beneficial uses of microorganisms in food. Not all microorganisms is bad, okay? Some microorganisms can actually be used to grow in food. So previously, all the slides we have been talking about pathogens, okay, the microorganisms that lead to food spoilage, okay, not only the pathogen, not only food disease, they actually spoil the food in terms of the taste, the smell, the look of it, okay. But some microorganisms can actually use it to produce food. So microbes are single-celled organisms so tiny that millions can fit into the eyes of a needle. They are the oldest form of life on the earth here. And the first realization that microbes were involved in food production process in the early 1837s, when scientists discovered the role of yeast in an alcoholic fermentations, okay, to produce like the alcoholic beverages. Not only that, different type of microorganisms can also create different type of food. Like for example, you can use it to make soy sauce, okay, like asparagus. Then lactobacillus to make cheese, yogurts, okay. Then you got Saccharomyces, okay, which is the yeast base. You can use it to make beer, wine, and bread and so forth, okay. So for example, you look at this, yogurt. Yogurt is one of the fermented milk products using lactobacillus, lactococcus, and bifidobacterium. All these are what we call the probiotics. Probiotics means good. Okay, probiotic actually can you use to improve your gut health. Okay, the gut is your in your colon and your small intestine. Yeah. Okay, to help to improve the gut health. Because it can, as you know, our gut, okay, our colons, they requires to have a certain percentage, okay, or the healthy probiotics to be in our guts in order for good health. Yeah, okay, it can be use it to improve our digestion, okay, or overall health of our gut. So probiotic improve microbial spectrum in the gut and thus contribute the effects like it can actually improve the immunity, decrease the risk of colon cancer, decrease cholesterol absorptions, okay, as well as it can sometimes increase the absorption of minerals, for example, calcium and phosphorus. Alright. So you can see from here, last but not least, the last slide for this lecture, you can see from here bread. You can use Saccharomyces cerevisiae, yeast, lactic acid, bacteria to produce. Okay, you can see soy sauce, cheese, yogurts, okay, and so forth. You can use different type of microorganisms to grow. Yeah, okay, and all these microorganisms are being applied to this substrate in order to produce. Like for example, this lactobacillus bulgarius, okay, can be used to apply to milk or milk solid in order to produce yogurt. Okay, Lactobacillus can be applied to milk in order to produce cheese and so forth. Okay, alright, so I will end from here. Hope you understand more towards the food spoilage and the deteriorations. Not only that, you must link the microorganism to food production as well. Okay, so if you got questions, please ask in the Padlet. If you got no questions, please make sure you indicate in the Padlets for attendance taking. Okay, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to post the assessment. So make sure you got another 2 assessments to be completed for this semester. Okay, so thank you very much.